Now, in chapter 2, we're going to cover a couple of points. First points, we're going to cover input devices, and then direct data entry devices, and then we're going to cover output devices. Now, first of all, whenever they say input devices are used to input data into the computer. And remember, last time we mentioned we have a microprocessor and we have a storage device, and then we can input using an input device, process the information, and then the information can be either stored or it can be output. That means whenever we would like to deal with the computer or whenever we would like the processor to process anything, what we do, we need to input the information that we need to process. Either input it externally using an input device, yes, or input it from the storage device by using an input device. Very good. So input and output devices are needed. Why? Because you need to input the process and then you need to output to see. Very good. So input devices are there where? Because they are used to input data into the computer. The first a simple one is the keyboard. Why we use the keyboard? To input text. So the keyboard will be inputting text, just like the keyboard you see in front of you. So it will be used for inputting data and it will be used for typing, generally speaking. What we need to know, advantages of using keyboard and disadvantages of using keyboard. The advantages is, first of all, it's easy and familiar. It comes with each and every computer. Whenever you have a computer, you must have a keyboard. If you have a tablet or a phone, you will have a different type of keyboard. We call it soft keyboard. Yes, not a hard keyboard like the one that we use in desktop, isn't it? The keyboard will be on screen, we call it keyboard. But both of them are used for the same reasons. So it's easy, it's fast whenever you are inserting text. It's good for typing. What about disadvantages? We'll find later that it's very slow in comparison with other input devices. For example, whenever you go to the supermarket and you are buying some goods, whenever they are taking the goods from you, do they enter the codes using the keyboard or they use a barcode reader? Why they use a barcode reader instead of a keyboard? Faster, more accurate. Are we good? So in certain application, you will find that the keyboard will be considered very slow if we compare it with other input devices. However, for typing text, it's the best. For typing text, it's the best. Are we good? What about numeric keypad? Numeric keypad is used for, as you can see here, typing only numbers. That's why you will find it normally where? In ATM, or whenever you would like to insert your, let's say, passwords using a chip and pin reader, or use it where? In mobile phones whenever you are calling someone. Very good. What about the disadvantages? Straightforward, very big normally in nature, easier to type numbers. Disadvantages, sometimes the key might be very small for you. And other disadvantage, difficult to type letters. Some of them they include letters where you can actually type number and letters. You get it? In the old phone, if you remember, we can have number 1, we can type the letter A, B, or C, and under number 2 you get the point. So if I hold and press number 1, it will start typing letters instead of numbers. You get it? In all phones. Good? So whenever we are using it for number, it's very fast. If we use it for letter, it will be very, very slow. That's why we use the keyboard for letters. Are we good? What about next? Mouse, why we use it? Pointing device. We use it as a pointing device. So the mouse is very popular in doing this. First of all, what they do? First thing, selecting Windows, clicking or and a pointing device. And remember, we mentioned the user interface in chapter 1. The mouse is normally work with which user interface? GUI, CLI, gesture user interface, or dialog. Which one? GUI. Why GUI? Because the graphical user interface is based on graphic, just like the Microsoft Windows you are using now in the lab. Everything icons you click on, you right click to select, you right click to copy, you right click to delete, you get the point. Very good. That's why it's very popular whenever you are using GUI. In CLI, not that popular. Why? Because if you remember in CLI, we prefer typing commands with correct spelling. So in CLI, you will be using keyboard more than mouse. So the advantage is easy to navigate. Yes, quicker to select some options if we compare it with keyboard. You can use it very fast. You can move the cursor very fast and you can select options. What about disadvantages? Easily damage. Yes, if you drop it sometimes, it will be damaged. And it needs a flat surface, otherwise it will not be working properly. You need a flat surface for it. What about touchpad, where we find it normally? It's a replacement of the mouse in laptops. Yes. And that's why sometimes laptops are convenient. Keyboard and mouse in the same body, so we call it a compact body. We don't need an external mouse. So it's used also in laptops for pointing devices. Advantage, it's part of the keyboard, and that's what makes the laptop very portable. Yes, keyboard and mouse in the same body. What about the disadvantages? Difficult, and you can even add awkward position of the touchpad itself. The position is just below the keyboard. Sometimes if you are typing, you might, yes, touch it by mistakes, and then it will change the cursor. It will disaster. Very good. So if you are using for example, you would like your laptop to be used for long typing, it's better always to use a separate mouse and disable the touchpad. Very good. However, it's cheaper. Whenever you get a laptop, you will find that you get the mouse and keyboard in the same body. What about tracker ball? This is a mouse. However, you will find that instead of moving the mouse itself, there is a ball on the top of the mouse. So using your finger, you can actually rotate the ball. You get it? So it is actually a pointing device, but for limited mobility. Meaning, if you have a problem, some people have problem moving their hands. They have certain disabilities, for example. So they prefer to use these because instead of using the whole hand, you're only using your finger. So if you have a problem or limited space, yes, what we use? Tracker ball. However, you will find that it's tend to be more expensive because instead of moving the mouse itself, you are removing the ball. Very good. And it's not familiar. Not anyone knows how to use the tracker ball. However, you'll find that most of them, it's easy for them to use the normal mouse. That's why you'll find that the mouse for an average user will be simple to use. However, if you get to use this tracker ball, you will find it what? Easier. In certain application, it's faster. It responds very, very fast. Yes? And it tends to be expensive. So if you don't have a disability, just stick with the normal mouse. If you have certain disability or you'd like to have more accuracy and better response, you go for the tracker ball. However, you will pay more. What else we have? Remote control. Why we use it? To control TVs, isn't it? And we can use it for machine or you can use it for multimedia system. So remote control is whenever you would like to control a device from a distance. You'd like to control a device from a distance without being closer to that device. So the advantage is can be used from distance. Disadvantage, the distance is limited and sometimes if you have something in between you and the device, the signal might not reach the device. For example, you would like to change the volume on the TV and someone is standing in front of you, what will happen? That person will block you from changing the volume. So you need line of sight. We need line of sight. No obstacles between you and the device. What about joystick? Where do we use it? Games was very popular. Till now it's popular in flight simulation, for example. Whenever you'd like to play these kind of flight simulator games, we prefer joystick. Why we prefer it over a mouse? More realistic, more accurate than a mouse and a keyboard. if I'm playing this kind of games. You get it? If I'm flying a plane, it's better to use joystick than using a keyboard and a mouse. Are we good? The same goes if you are playing a racing game. Which one will you use? Steering wheels will be better and more accurate than using a mouse, even though both of them are tend to be more expensive than a keyboard and mouse. You get it? However, they are more realistic and more responsive in certain applications, such as gaming application. Are we good? So whenever I ask you for why we need the device and certain application, where do we use the device? An advantage and disadvantage. This is very important, but as you can see here, it's very straightforward. Touch screen, this can be an input and can be an output device. Since it's a screen, that means I can see, I can watch, I can read text. That means it's an output device. What about if I touch it using my finger? I can click on icons, I can drag, I can zoom in, zoom out. That means it's an input device. So the only device that is output and input at the same time is the touch screen. Use where? Yes, why we use it there? Because it's very easy to select options. You just click using your mouse. However, sometimes you might select option wrong accidentally by touching by mistake. And if the screen gets dirty, it will be harder for you to even select or drag. It will be not a responsive screen. Very good. What about scanner? Have you seen this device before? Why we use it? Whenever you have a book, just like the books in front of you, and I would like to store this book inside my computer, that means I would like to scan it and convert it from a physical book into a soft book or a digital book. So the scanner will be done for what? To scan real documents and photograph into digital documents and photographs, so you can store them where? On a digital device such as a computer, a laptop, or a telephone. Nowadays the camera is replacing the scanner, isn't it? Nowadays, whenever you have a page that you would like to scan, you can even now use your camera, your phone camera, and with an app called Scanner, it will scan it as well. However, these are professional scanners. Very good. Advantage, you can have more than one copy. Disadvantage, the quality depends on the resolution of the device itself. Some scanners are even black and white only. Some scanners are colored. Some scanners have very high resolution. So if you have images, you will find the images nice and crisp. You get the point. However, whenever you go high in resolution, you will find that the cost will also increase. What about digital cameras? Where we use them and for what? Digital cameras used for taking photographs and small video clips. Why small video clips? Because later we'll have another camera called a video camera. The video camera will be used for taking real videos. Are we good? But whenever I come here for the digital camera, not the video camera, this is intended normally for what? Photograph and small videos, where you can actually connect them to the computer and transfer whatever you have taken into the computer and store it there in your internal storage device. Are we good? Advantages. What are the advantages? You can have very high resolution and no need for developing a film like previously back in the days. Now you can see the image immediately, you can store it immediately in a computer, and you can print it out using any inkjet printer. What about disadvantages? Transferring the images, storing the images in computers sometimes is difficult. You need what we can call now a memory card reader, because these cameras have memory cards. And you take the memory card from the camera, to insert it in the computer, you need to have a very specific slots called memory card interface. So you insert it in that interface and then you can see or transfer whatever on the memory card. Nowadays, they allow you even to connect it using, for example, a cable, a USB cable, okay, where you can also transfer to your computer, but it takes time. That's why they said what transferring it can be sometimes complicated. Can be sometimes complicated. Video camera. This is intended for what? Intended for video. That's why they can record HD nowadays, 2K and 4K quality, very high quality of videos. And photos can be edited also. You can connect it to the screen and you can connect it to any computer and you can start editing. Very good. What about disadvantages? Increase the quality of the movie, the story needed will be more. And you will notice this now whenever you are using your smartphone. Whenever you are taking high quality picture, what happens? You will find that the size of the picture is bigger. The storage size will become bigger. So if you have a phone with a limited storage, it's better to reduce the quality of the videos and images. Otherwise, you will fill the whole internal storage of your device. Are we good? Remember, quality means more storage. Quality means more storage. What about the microphone? We use it for singing? No, we use it for inputting general sound into the computer. You get it? And a certain application is very important. Remember, user interfaces. We have one of the user interface called what? Dialogue based interface, where I can, instead of typing or using a mouse, I can use my voice. So to use my voice with those kind of operating system, you need what? A microphone, so that your voice can be inputted into the computer and the microprocessor will recognize what you need to do. Are we good? So voice can be added, for example, to presentation like this presentation we're doing now. You can record an audio, it's a microphone. And you can use it where? In certain voice recognition application. However, sometimes it's not as accurate as typing a computer. For example, some application now allows you to talk and then it will convert from voice to text. So instead of typing the text now, for typing my assignment, I can just what? Yes, I can just say it to the computer and the application will convert whatever I'm saying into text. However, sometimes mistakes happens because it can be not that accurate. Yes, not that accurate. Especially if you spell something wrong. You get it? The computer will not be able to recognize what you are saying. What about graphical tablets? Previously, we have, till now, we have these graphical tablets. Whenever you would like to draw, people who would like always to draw, instead of drawing on real paper, you draw in these kind of tablets. So we call them graphical tablets. So why we need them? To freehand drawing, which can be stored where? On the computer. Nowadays, the normal tablets can do this for you, isn't it? The normal tablets, they have their own stylus pen, where you can use the tablets as an operating system, a full operating system of the tablets, or you can use it for drawing. Very good. But previously, these devices were, yes, alone. Separate devices only intended for drawing. Very good. What about disadvantages? Longer to produce, and it's costly. It's very, it's very costly. Especially the most responsive one, you will find it's very costly. No, no. You'll find it's very costly. Why we need webcam? To input video. Webcams comes with a laptop. Whenever you have a laptop, you might have a small webcam. In computers or desktop computers, you will need to buy them alone. What about phones? Do we have a webcam? Yes. We have what we can call front camera. The front camera of the phone that is for a selfie, we call it, previously used to be called a webcam. Now we call it what? A front camera. So whenever you go to the phone, you call it a front camera. Whenever you go to the laptop, you call it what? A webcam. You're not doing a selfie with the laptop, isn't it? Are we good? So these are used for certain application. Later we'll discuss, such as, for example, making a video call. And it's making a video call sometimes is more convenient instead of making an audio call if you'd like to see the other person. So whenever you do these kind of things, what you need a camera. You need a camera and you need a microphone. So that's why in these applications, whenever you find someone has a desktop and a webcam, you would know this person is doing video calls or video conferences, we call them, or video meetings. Are we good? Over the computer. Now, what about the features? You can allow face-to-face video chat. Other features, you can contact people without traveling, so you can talk with your niece, for example, or a relative in a different country without needing to go there. Less cost or not? Less cost. Better than traveling and wasting time and money. You can just call them a video call. What about disadvantages? The quality will depend on the internet connection, and we can add, please add to your notes, the quality depends on the camera quality itself, the camera resolution or pixels. Okay, the quality will depend on these two. Very good. If you are doing an internet video call, that means the internet connection will be very important. Now, what about light pen? Light pen, why we need it? To draw on screen. Remember, previously we have a type of screen, we call it the CRT screen. This is screen. Do you remember this screen? A big screen. Looks like this if I know how to draw. Yes, the old TVs. Have you seen the old TVs? Not the flat one now, the LCD and LED. These old TVs are in nature analog. So whenever I would like, let's say, to target a specific area on the screen or to select it, I use what we call a light pen, where I will expose light in a certain area on the screen that will be detected by an application, and then something will happen. You get it? For example, whenever you go to and play games in arcade games, whenever you go to the malls, you can play arcade games, yes? You notice that you can play a game where you can hold a gun and then shoot on the screen. And then the enemies will start to fall. Have you seen it? Yes, they will shoot guns. If you look at their screen, they never use flat screens. They never use LED screens. They never use LCD screens. Always a big box screen. Why? Because using this technology, where you shoot light and the light will be detected, and if the enemy there, the enemy will die. It's only used by certain screen, old screen called CRT screens. These are the only screen that can react to light intensity. You get it? So can we play the same game here using a normal LED or LCD screen? No. Very good. Nowadays, to be interacted with this kind of screen, what we use stylus. Instead of using a light pen, we use stylus. So it's more accurate than touch screen, and it's very small in size. The pen itself is very small in size, so it has very high accuracy where you can select on the screen. What about the disadvantages? Only use with all, yes, monitors. Very good. So it's a dated technology, means it's an old technology, not there or not used anymore. They are replaced with this kind of LCD and LED screens where you can only use stylus. Very good. And we have sensors. What do we mean by sensor, generally speaking? Sensor, a device that will convert a real world property into a computer where it can be processed. So sensors are actually input devices that will monitor changes in the environment around you, and then these changes will be inputted into a computer where the computer will process them. Very good. You can write this as a definition. Sensors will do what? Will monitor changes in physical variables around you. Changes will monitor changes in physical variables. Yes? Will monitor changes that happens on physical variables. Yes? Example, I can have a temperature sensor now in this AC. If you look at this AC has a temperature sensor. What the task of this temperature sensor? Will monitor the temperature in this room and send it to the microprocessor. Are we good? So whenever using a remote control, you set the AC in a certain temperature. Whenever the AC reaches that temperature, it will stop cooling, isn't it? If I set it to 25 degree, whenever it reaches 25 degree, what will happen? It will stop cooling. Now, how the AC knows that the temperature is now 25 degree in the room? By using a temperature sensor. So the temperature sensor is a device that will monitor a physical variable such as a temperature and then store it where or send it where to the computer or to the microprocessor. Example of this sensor. Now look, this is very important. We have a temperature sensor. We have a light sensor, and you will find this on your phones, the light sensor. Whenever you are holding your phone and going into a darker place, what will happen to the screen light? It will become dimmer. Whenever you are going under sunlight, what will happen? So you will find that whenever you are covering certain areas on the phones, the light of the screen will start to change. Why? They have what we call them light sensors. So whenever they know that you are in a darker area, they will dim the light to prevent it from affecting your eyes. Are we good? Other sensors, we call them moisture sensors, and this is in greenhouses to know that we will put it there in the soil. So whenever the soil gets, a percentage of moisture, let's less than 30%, what will happen? A water valve will be automatically open, and the plants will be watered. You get the point? So automatically they will check the soils, and it will be watered every time. What next? Water level. These kind of sensors are in big, for example, water containers. It can be inside washing machines, automatic washing machines, so that whenever the washing machine is pulling water inside it, it will stop at a certain level. Very good. What else? Proximity sensors. And these proximity sensors, you will find them nowadays in cars, for example. Whenever you are reversing with your car, you will notice that sometimes there is an alarm whenever there are an object at the back. So at the back of the car, we have these small sensors that will detect if there is an object and even measure the distance between the car and the object. So to prevent you from making accidents, we call them proximity sensors. And movement sensors, where you can have it everywhere. Whenever there is a movement, what will happen? An alarm will be triggered. Movement sensor can now be built in with the cameras. We have certain cameras that we can connect them. Whenever you see any object in this room moving, what will happen? An alarm will be triggered. So at banks, for example, after 6 p.m., no one should be inside the bank or inside the safe area in the bank, isn't it? So whenever there is a camera there, I will switch that camera on so that if anything changes in this room, that means there is a robbery. Are we good? So it will detect movements and then react to these kind of movements. That's why I call it what? Movement sensors. And what we have? A pressure sensors. And this is will sense the amount of pressure on a specific objects. Are we get? These kind of sensors also they are there in certain application where you would like high security. You can, for example, put objects that if someone lifted those objects, what will happen? A trigger will be alarm. So you will put those objects above a pressure sensor. If I come and try to steal the object, that means whenever I raise the object, the pressure sensor will detect a difference in the pressure, and alarm will be triggered. So all of them, they have one thing in common. All of them, they are monitoring physical variables, and those physical variables will be sent to the microprocessor so they can be processed. Different reasons and different processing, isn't it? Are we good? So now, normally, whenever they ask you now, whenever you are using these kind of sensors are analog in nature. They are analog. And remember what we said about analog last time in chapter 1. That means whenever I'm checking, for example, the temperature, whenever I'm checking the temperature, you will find that I will have infinite level of rise and fall in the temperature during the day. And these data are continuous, isn't it? As you can see here, my graph. So this is what we call analog. Whenever the figures and the graph is a continuous, infinite level of scaling differences between voltages, which we call it analog. Now, the computer works in a different data stream. The computers work only in discrete, remember. The computer is digital. That the computers have two values, either D or 0 or 1. For example, 5 volt or 0 volt. So, for example, let's say, for example, the computer accepts how many voltages? Only 2. Either 5 or 0. Either on or off. What about the voltages here, as you can see in the analog? So many. So that means the computer will not be able to deal with this data. because these data are coming with so many voltage level, as you can see, or variation, and the computer accepts only two variations. So we need a converter, isn't it? So whenever we connect any analog device to the computer, we need a converter. This converter is called analog to digital converter. So it will convert from analog to digital so the data can be understood by the computer. Very good. Any device, if I now connect, let's say a microphone to my computer, and I would like to talk and store my voice inside my computer, what will happen? You'll find that whenever my voice reaches the microphone, it has to be later converted into digital before it can be understood and stored where? Inside the computer. Very good. So these kind of sensors we just discussed, in nature they are analog. So to connect them to the computer understand only digital. To do so, what you need to do, you use a converter. Are we good? So if I ask you why sensors cannot be directly connected to computers, your answer will be because sensors are analog and computers are digital. So they speak different language. And whenever two persons speak this different language, to be able to communicate, they need a translator in between, isn't it? Are we good? So that's why whenever you connect sensors to computer, you need an ADC, and the ADC will be your translator. Are we good so far? So as you can see, these are very straightforward input devices. Some of them you might encounter in a daily basis. Some of them are new for you. Very good. Now we have another type of input devices, very important. We call them direct data entry devices. And by nature, these are faster and more accurate, and sometimes more secure. Example, nowadays, whenever you go to this kind of 3-star and 5-star hotels, instead of giving you a physical key, they will give you a magnetic card. Have you seen it before? So whenever you are accessing your room, you will access it using this kind of magnetic card. So the information of the room itself will be stored in this black magnet at the back of the card. Now, why we use it? First of all, it's cheaper than having a key. It's plastic. Second, I can deactivate it anytime. For example, if you are leaving my hotel today and you forgot to return the card, I can go inside the computer and do what? Disable your card. You get the point? Are we good? So these kind of cards can be enabled and next day can be disabled. You will notice it some places they can use it for accessing trains undergrounds. They give you this kind of card. So whenever the card is expired, what will happen? Whenever you come and try, the card will not work. So you'll find this one is better, isn't it? So we use it where? In bank cards. We have it. What else? Arcade balance. Now whenever you are trying to pay, instead of previously we used to input coins back in the days. They give us coins. We pay money, they give us coins. And we insert the coins and we play the game. Nowadays, no one is giving you a coin. They give you this kind of a card, they put a balance there, and then you use. If you run out of balance, what you do? You come back again and you ask for a top up. They can top up your balance again. At the end of the day, you can just throw away the card. No one will ask you to return it. It is plastic. It's a very cheap card. Very good. So advantages of this card is, as I said, first of all, and no typing. That means it's very accurate and secure in a way. No one will be actually looking at what you are typing. You get the point where security comes from. Because if I'm typing my password, if someone is standing next to me, that person can get my password. But if I'm using my card as my password, it's more secure. Very good. And it can be easily updated, as you have seen, whenever you are playing games, arcade games with this card. What is disadvantages? Sometimes the stripe itself becomes scratched. So from using it for several times, it will become scratch. If it's scratched, that means it will become unusable. And next, it does not work from distance. You have to insert it, swipe it in a certain reader to work. What about next? It can be, and if it lost, it can be used by anyone. So not secure if it lost. Not secure if it's so if you lost it and you have still money there, that's it. Someone else will be playing your games. Are we good? That's why this kind of cards, whenever you use them for payment, you will find that they have a maximum amount of money that can be inserted to avoid this kind of problems, losing the cards and not being able to get the card again, or anyone else can use the card because there is no security in the card. Anyone can swipe, isn't it? Anyone can swipe. So that's why whenever you are going into an ATM or trying to withdraw money from the ATM, you will never use a magnetic stripe. Because if we can use a magnetic stripe, I can steal now your credit card and go to the nearest ATM and get your money. We use a different method. We call it what? Chip and pin reader. So this is the same card. In the back, we have magnetic stripe, a black film. In the front, what we have? A chip. Looks just like the SIM card of your phone. Why we prefer this? Because whenever we are making payment at restaurants or at ATMs or anywhere, they will ask you to insert what? A PIN code, a password, a 4-digit password. That's why it's considered very, very secure. Because the card cannot be used unless you know the 4-pin password. That's why whenever you go to ATM, you will find that you insert the card. Even in supermarket now, if you are paying using this kind of credit card, whenever you are putting the card, they will ask you to insert your code. If you know the code, that's it. Otherwise, no. Yes. No. Magnetic stripe, the magnetic stripe one, no. No password. And that's why I said if you lose it, anyone can use it. Magnetic stripe, if you lose it, anyone can use it. That's why they make it for this kind of playing games, hotels, rooms, because they know you. The security knows whether you are from this hotel or not. Are we good? But for paying or getting money from ATMs and paying at supermarket, you have to authenticate yourself. This is your card. Are we good? But it's more expensive. It's more, type it, it's more expensive than what? Than the magnetic stripe. Why? Because this chip contains a memory. The chip itself contains a memory, which is your PIN code, isn't it? So whenever you insert your PIN code, it will be compared with the one stored where? In the chip. So whenever you have a memory, that means the cost will be more. So you have a more costly input device. Are we good? Now we have contactless cards. What's the difference? Contactless means instead of swiping the card in a reader or inserting the card, you can just wave from a very small distance, and what will happen? Your card will be detected using radio frequency. So contactless card, they use what we call a radio frequency, means wireless. Means wireless. Are we good? Where you will put the card next to a reader, as you can see here, frequencies will go to the reader, to the card from the reader, and will be reflected back, and then the information on the card can be now read by the reader. So the advantages, what about the advantages? Quicker time. Instead of inserting, you just wave. Are we good? Next, you don't have to use a pin normally. This kind of card, you don't have to use a pin code. So that means it's faster. And it also means it's not secure later. No pin anyone can use. Remember, faster to remove a pin. Even in your phone now, faster to remove your security or pin or password on your phone screen. However, anyone can use your phone. Are we good? Because you are not putting any kind of a security. So the security using this kind of password and pins, yes, it makes it more secure. However, it will take time for you to unlock your device or to use your device, isn't it? Yes? Wait. So next, so it's less secure, and so thieves can easily get the cards. They can clone these kind of cards. And since they can get the card and there is no security in the card or PIN code, that means they can duplicate your card and use it. Yes? No? Yes, they can't duplicate their card and use it. And that's why, since there is no PIN code, only smaller payment will be accepted to avoid a disaster of someone losing the card and someone else withdrawing all the money from the card in one purchase. Very good. So all of these, as you can see, are quicker than using a keyboard. What about radio frequency identification? This one is used in warehouses. Companies having big warehouses where they stores their products in boxes. Instead of counting each and every box and looking at each and every box manually, I will bring these kind of guns where they will shoot frequencies, and each and every box will have a small tag. Can you see the tag? Whenever frequencies comes, it will activate this tag and then it will reflect back its own frequency. What we call this? We call them tag. We call them radio frequency identification or radio frequency ID. Are you good? Where we use it normally? Remember, if you go to this kind of expensive shops, you will find that on the clothes they are sticking some kind of a magnet. This magnet will have a tag, an RFID tag. If you steal the clothes and you try to leave the store, what will happen? An alarm. Because in the front of the store, you will find antennas like this. And you are trying to move, what will happen? These antennas are always shooting radio frequencies. If there is a tag inside the bag or hidden or trying to leave the shop, an alarm will be triggered. That's why whenever you buy, they will ask you to remove the tag first using magnet. They hit it with a magnet, they remove the tag, and you are free to go. So this is another application. So these tags can be used for stock control in warehouses. I can shoot, and every box with a tag will reply back, or I can use it or for security. I can put tags in certain products, and if these tags are leaving, what will happen? An alarm will be triggered whenever they broadcast themselves. So it can be used for what? Track the movements of animals. Each and every animal, I can just place a tag on that animal. Next, stock control. I go to my warehouses, I shoot these kind of frequencies using our RFID reader. What will happen? All the tags will pronounce themselves, and I will know how many boxes are there and what the products that are still left. Faster or not? Faster or not? Faster than counting them manually. And I can use them where? In airport to track luggage. You get it? Or we can use them even in contactless card to make payments. You can also use them in contactless card to make payments. So advantages, you can make or you can read from distance. You can read from distance. What else? You can read in bulk. What do you mean by read in bulk? In group. Means I go into a room, it has 200 boxes, all of them, each and every box has a tag. Whenever I'm shooting the gun, what will happen? All of the tags will reply. So I don't have to point them one by one. What reader needs one by one? What reader cannot read in group? There is another input device that we are using to read products, but it can read only one by one. Unlike this one, barcode reader. So remember, barcode reader, you have to bring the product close to the barcode and scan it. This kind of RFID reader, you don't have to bring the box close, and you can stand many at the same time. Very good. However, if you have a problem in the frequency, it can be jammed or hacked if you have interference around you. And it's more expensive than, that's why in the supermarket, they will never sell you any kind of a product with a tag. They always sell you the product with barcode, because barcode can be printed on a normal paper. Barcode and QR code, the one that you got last time. You got the QR code? Yes. So QR code and barcode, both of them can be printed on normal paper and can be read by any barcode by any barcode reader and QR code by any cameras. So they're cheaper or not? Cheap. Normal paper means no extra cost. Very good. Now we have NFC, which is near field communication, and you will find this one is used by by smartphones. This one is used by smartphone. So at the back of each and every smartphone, you will have this coil, and you will have a chip called NFC. So this one can be used either to send information or to receive information. Okay, that's why nowadays for payments it's becoming very popular. Instead of carrying smart cards and carrying credit cards everywhere, I will just carry my smartphone, and inside my smartphone I can have more than one credit card as a soft copy. You get it? So whenever you go to let's say to pay for something, you can just open the application, select the credit card, and then use your phone closer to the reader, and then it will be done. Is it more secure? Yes. First of all, why? Shorter distance. That means it's more secure. No one can intercept this connection. No one can intercept whatever you are receiving or transmitting. Next, it can be used as a receiver and a transmitter. You get it? So it can receive or send. And very high advantage or very important advantage here, you will find that whenever you are using it, instead of inserting a pin code nowadays, because you are using a smartphone, so whenever you would like to confirm the card, you can confirm it using biometrics. So it's more secure. For example, to confirm it, they will say, put your finger or let's scan your finger, isn't it? Better than inserting the four pin codes that are using chip and pin, isn't it? That's why it's considered more secure. Disadvantages: limited range. You have to be very close to the reader. And the other disadvantage is compatibility issues with some devices. It's not compatible with certain smartphones or device. Not any smartphone has an NFC. Whenever you have smartphone with an NFC, you will find that they tend to be more expensive than the normal ones. Very good. What else? In the bank, normally we write checks, isn't it? Whenever you are writing a check, this check used to be processed by a staff there manually. The staff will get your check just like this one. You get it? A full check here. The staff will be reading your name, your account number, your bank branch, the amount of money, and insert it in the computer. And then this check can be the later processed. They said to make it faster, let's put this kind of number at the bottom of each and every check. Can you see these numbers? These numbers will identify the routing number of the check, the account number of the check holder, and what we call a check number. So whenever anyone is writing a check and taking the check to the bank, this check will be inserted in a special machine called MICR machine, magnetic ink character reader machine. These machines will be used to process the check. And why we call it magnetic ink? Because these characters down here and these numbers are written in a very special ink, that even if I try using a normal pen to change this 9 this into 8, if I insert this check into the machine will still recognize it's a 9, not an 8. So even if I try and change this number using any pen, it will not be recognized by the machine. The machine will recognize the original numbers because these numbers are put there with a special magnetic ink. That means whenever these numbers are read, they are read using magnet. Are we good? To avoid any kind of manipulation of this kind of text and number. Are we good? So why it's popular? Why this magnetic ink popular? Because we are printing in a special ink, which is more secure, cannot be altered with. Where we use it? In processing bank check. Advantages: no need to manually enter the information of the text. Put it on the machine will recognize the text and input into the computer. Next, characters cannot be altered. Why? Because they are used by a special magnetic ink. Very good. And they can also be read, the original ones, even if you put what? If you type on them. Very good. What about disadvantages? You are using a special ink. That means very expensive. And the second one, you have a limited number of characters and a limited information that you can add at the bottom of the text. So the staff will still need to insert other information manually. What about for you for the IG? You will be using this one for paper 2 or any MCQs paper. Whenever you are solving any exam by selecting answer A, B, C, or D, or MCQs, you will be given this special paper. Where whenever your answer is A, you will shade over A. If your answer is B, you will shade over B and put an underline over A to say that I selected A first, but now I change my mind. So you have some certain instruction of how you can fill this kind of MCQs special paper. And why they use this kind of machine to mark them? Faster. I will insert sheet by sheet, student sheets or student answer, and the machine can detect sometimes and mark how many? 25 paper per minute. So if you are a 100 student, I will mark your paper in 4 minutes instead of a teacher marking it manually. Very good. However, you have to follow an instruction. If in the instruction they shade answer A, B, C, and D, please shade the correct answer. You have to do what? Shade. Don't make a tick. If you'd like to cancel, please put an underline, and shade another answer for D, for example. So you have to follow the instruction. Otherwise, the machine will mark you wrong. The machine will mark you wrong. So these are very convenient, isn't it? These are very convenient. So the advantages of this kind of machine is what? First of all, faster inputting results. It can be exams, it can be what? Surveys, yes? And because there is no type, it's more accurate. Very good. Because no typing, that means accuracy is there. But they have disadvantages, isn't it? What's the disadvantage? The form need to be carefully designed. Okay, and sometimes they work only with black pen or so not any type you can use, and you have limited number of question on the paper. It's MCQs, only MCQs. You cannot ask fill the gap, for example. It will not be able to mark it. Only A, B, C, or D, or all the above. Very good. And you'll find that in the advantage they say that it's better than another one called optical character reader. That one is different than this one. Optical character reader, on the other hand, is not used for detecting only marks. Is used for doing what? For converting a hard copy of a book into an editable soft copy. For example, OCR can be done to do what? Convert what? Hard copies into editable form. What do you mean by this? For example, you have your book, and I would like to copy page 2. I will bring my camera. I will take a screen of page 2 of the book. And then now I have a soft copy, isn't it? I will put it inside my computer. And now I will open an application called an OCR application, which is optical character reading. It will read each and every character on my picture and convert it from an image into editable characters. You get it? It's done whenever you'd like to scan, and at the same time after you scan, you copy the text from the scan picture. Very good. So I can scan the book. However, if I use a normal scanner, the book will be scanned as an image, isn't it? This can look just like an image in my computer. If I'd like to get some of the text from this image, I will not be able to do so because the whole page looks like an image. What if I would like to extract text? What I will do? Use what? Character reader. So optical character reader will use to convert text in an image into editable text or form. Okay, so where we use it nowadays, if you go to the airport, in the airport, instead of providing them your passport and inserting the information in your passport manually, what they do, they scan your passport, and then they have the application which will convert everything on your passport into editable form, and the form will be filled in front of the staff automatically. The staff will only need to do what? Save. That's why if you notice around the world, they are forcing a standard passport shape. The first page is standard. If you look at any passport around the world that support this system, you will find that the page where you'll have the owner information is always landscape, the picture in a specific place, the text used, the font used, the font size. You get it? Why? So this kind of application at immigration can scan your passport and convert it from image into text and insert it in the computer. Faster method or not? Faster and no chance of error. The stuff is not actually copying anything from your passport. It's just scanning the passport. Everything will be copied through the computer. So it's more accurate or not? More accurate. What about disadvantages? Not as accurate sometimes because it cannot read what? That's a problem. And that's why if you look at your passport and you look for a different country passport and you compare them, you'll find they are using the same sometimes font. The font itself is standard. The size of the font is standard. The spaces between the letters and between the names. Why? To avoid this kind of inaccuracy. To avoid this inaccuracy. Are we good? So we have OMR to mark student papers or surveys, and we have OCR to mark to do what? To convert any text in an image into an editable text. Nowadays, your phone can do it, by the way. Sometimes whenever you are pointing the cameras over a page, the phone can ask you whether you'd like to scan it or to get the text. You can actually get the text and paste it in a message or email or WhatsApp or whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so these we call them fast input devices. The one that we all know is the barcode. Where we use it? Point of supermarket. Whenever you are buying something, if they have a defective barcode, that means you'll find so many people waiting in line because the person will have to insert the code of each and every product manually. But if they have a barcode, they can just scan it using a barcode reader, and it will be very what? Quicker or not quicker? Quicker. And at the same time, they can check their stock. So whenever they are low in a specific product, what will happen? The system will alert them. This product has only 10 left. So they can contact the supplier, and the supplier can bring them more product. So these kind of systems are popular even in small shops now, not because they are lazy or they would like only a quicker barcode scanner or they would like the customer to be happy. No, because these kind of system can even control the stock inside the shop. So if they are low in a specific item, they would know using the system instead of counting them manually like we used to do previously. We good? Any question? What about disadvantages? Sometimes it's what? Unreadable. And what will happen if it's unreadable? They will have to insert it using the keyboard and it will take time. And it can be swapped. For example, you are buying, let's say, a TV. So you will just take the barcode of the TV, put it, for example, in what else? A cheap one. Yeah, you can swap even if you have two TVs next to each other. One of them is very expensive. The other one is cheap. So I can remove the barcode from the expensive, put it where? On the cheap one, and swap them and go there to the cashier. You get it? And then the cashier, whenever it's reading, the cashier will get that this is a TV. But the cashier, that's why most of them, they read the name because they know that it might be swapped. And sometimes the system itself, the initial cost is very expensive. What about QR? You have it with you? Why we gave you QR, not barcode, by the way? Barcode read what? Numbers. Numbers means nothing. You have to put the numbers on the system and link them with the name and price and stock, isn't it? But whenever you look at the QR, the QR is different than the barcode because it can contain what? Information, not a frequency or a number. It contains what? Information. You get it? That's why it can be used for advertisement. You get it? You can put what? For example, restaurants, Wi-Fi password can be in this kind of QR code, isn't it? Yes? You can scan this QR code to get what? A menu. Or just like we have done it to you, to get what? A link to a specific cloud or a specific folder or a specific channel. You get it? So the advantage is you hold more information. More information can be held there. Are we good? And it's easier than barcode. Why? It can be read by any. If we give it to you a barcode, you will have to go to the next shop to scan it. You'll have to go to supermarket and say, "Excuse me, I would like to scan this barcode to see the content." But QR, any camera can be scanned. What about disadvantages? We have so many shapes. This is not the standard shape. There are so many shapes. So some of them might be detectable by camera, some of them might not be detectable by your system or by your software. So many standard shapes.